ever heard, because when I first was seeing you, you were big. You did have the dreads. You did have the tats. And I was a dread too, so I know all about it. I see you going back down the journey as well. I don't know how far you're going to go with it, but
Yeah, it won't go that far.
it won't go that far. You had your mane, you had the tats, and look, they who win the war write the history, right? That's all you see.
Yeah.
That's all you see now. Like, so in so many ways, you're a pioneer. I mean, if you look at Henry, that's a carbon copy in terms of big, rocked up, fast, tats, dreads, right? Like, you're a pioneer. How does that feel now, knowing that you had to do that uphill battle? It's almost like, in a way, it's almost like a AI type of scenario, right? Because you were the first one. Like, literally, I could say confidently, you could think about like them you boys like Najee Davenport and a few of them, Edger and James, but they weren't larger than life figures coming in. It wasn't like this big, tall, ginormous running back, tats and dreads, and he's out on them. Like, what was that like for you now when you look at where the game is, the culture of the game now? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good because it means that I did my part, right? Not only did I, help breaking into the day-to-day Sunday football watchers television set, because you're talking about the commercials and things
Sure.
like that, right? I was able to be on the spearhead of that, but also I guess I handled myself in a way that they didn't have those stereotypes you want to put on that look or what you want to assume about that person that looks
Mm-hmm.
like what I look like. Um, you I broke those I helped break some of those doors down to make now that these guys are getting contracts and these commercials and not having that second thought of what I knew I faced in the boardroom. It just it proves that I did my job.
So let's talk about that. Led to endorsements knocking down the doors. I just had this conversation with my homie yesterday, so I'm real tight. I mentored Sean Merriman, so when I saw the commercial hit, I was like, dang, like, hardest commercial to this day. It's still the hardest one to this day. The Last of the Mohicans I referenced earlier. They're playing the theme music from the movie. You got Sean dogging cats, but then here comes Steve grabbing the ball and rolling out and doing what he's doing, and that's you. How does that? I mean, in the moment, I'm sure it's like, man, that's a pretty cool commercial. But where you are now, how do you look at a moment like that? Like, how do you internalize that you're part of one of the most iconic Nike commercials ever shot?
And it's Goosebumps. I remember in college we used to get some of the prototype cleats, right? And we would get these shoes given to us and practice in, and it was like, damn, if I could just sign a deal with Nike one day, that would be like one of the freshest, dopest moments that man. But then fast forward to be one of the part of the most iconic commercials, the marketing. It changed the way football commercializes itself and how it pushes the products. But to be, that prototype, that I mean, it'll outlast me my time on this earth. So it's dope. It's dope, but it's very humbling because I remember just wanting to get some free product as a college entry
Right,
kid. Yeah.
right. How does that make you feel to know, again, that guys, it's always who can come up with something next? Like, where does the next game changing content comes from? How does that make you feel to know that that's a standard? Like, guys are still probably influenced by that commercial. How does that, like, that's got to be a cool feeling.
It is. It is. Because you talk about the concept of it, and what we're trying to show is the grind from week to week, seasons, through the fall, through the winter, right? Regardless,
The
indoor,
weather
outdoor.
was changing on us.
Not, yeah, exactly, right. But
Right.
every week you got to grind, and when Merriman, you got the pressure of him breathing down your back, or you got the pressure of me getting ready to run, trying to run you over.
Right.
Who's going to stop you? And then next week, the challenge only becomes even greater. So for us to be able to convey that in less than a minute, we still able to talk about it nearly 20 years later. Man, I was happy that we put in the effort that we did, because we talked about it, right? As you talk about, you like, I want this to be dope. I want people to remember this. So for us to go and put that kind of commitment in and deliver on that, it means that we're going to stick around for a long time.
Truth. How you think you would have done in today's NFL?
I think just the sheerness of, they don't hit in practice, right? I think that saves and probably lengthen my career another 2 or 3 seasons. Where I had some of these coaches, they're coming into the team because we were bad the year before. They think they got to toughen you up. So I'm live practice, right? And then I have to go out on Sunday and do it again and entertain. That in itself, I think, lengthens my career. I mean, I'm more dominant. The game is spread out, and I still don't know how officials are calling this crown of the helmet thing, right? So, interesting enough, I think the league has good intentions of protecting people, but at the end of the day, you can't guarantee anything. So what I challenge the league and say is, take care of the guys afterwards and let the game be what it is. It's physical. It's a physical game. And those that choose to play, we live with that.
That's interesting. Who was your person? That's a great answer, and it's respectable. But you and I know we be dealing with a whole lot. Like there's those moments of, even if you're doing well, there's moments of like uncertainty, frustration, excitement. There's so many different emotions that, especially when you're the star, who was your person? Was it a teammate? Was it my person was on the track team, and it was a lady lion that ran, and we were best friends. We knew each other since high school. Wasn't a love and basketball type of story. It wasn't like that, but that was my person. I had the Ricky moment, like, I'm tired of this. You know what I mean? Like, I done fell to my knees, bro. I'm crying. Like, I don't understand why things are going this way. And I can remember her talking me off the ledge, like, let's jump back in our books. When all else fails, your education is the key, and just keep believing in yourself. Did you have a person that when you had your moments, that was like that person that you talked about, the community and drawing close? Who was your person?
So it was a senior running back. His name was Ken Simonson, and he's the school all-time lead rusher, right? So I was fortunate enough to not only play for a guy that broke a lot of records and kind of set the standard for myself, but also he was a Pittsburgh, California guy, that Bay Area, and he had some sense. He actually made me start looking at the world in broader terms, right? I wasn't so just laser focused on just thinking about football singularly. And he would probe these questions, or he would point out the history of what we were living through. And he was, bringing that kind of awareness to myself. So I was fortunate enough to have a senior running back pour into me so early, because he saw the potential. I was humble. I was willing to put in the work, but at the same time, I was a sponge, and he fed into that in the right way.